March 1944. Somewhere on England's southern coast, the wind howls across the docks of Portsmouth. Cranes groan, welders spark, and the sea carries the smell of oil and iron. Beneath the fog, dozens of British and American engineers work in silence on something almost absurd, a plan to build a pipeline under the ocean. Lieutenant Commander Donald Bailey of the Royal Navy Engineering Division leans over a table scattered with blueprints. He taps the pencil against a line that stretches from England all the way to Normandy. "They'll think we've gone mad," he mutters. And in truth, most do. The project's codename is Operation Pluto, Pipeline Under the Ocean. The goal? Deliver fuel to the Allied armies once they storm the beaches of France. Because tanks, trucks, and aircraft, the lifeblood of modern war, run not on courage, but on gasoline. To many officers, the plan borders on lunacy. "How the hell do you pump fuel across the English Channel?" one American colonel laughs. "The Germans will bomb it before the first drop crosses." But in a war built on impossible ideas, the Mulberry Harbours, radar deception, phantom armies, Pluto will soon become one of the most daring of them all. At a small table that night, engineer Arthur Hartley sketches his idea on a napkin. What if the pipeline itself were flexible, like a giant garden hose? He calls it Hyes, a combination of the names Hartley and Siemens. The inner core is lead, wrapped in steel wire, then coated in tarred jute and waterproofing. It's crude, it's risky, but if it works, the Allies can send millions of gallons of fuel across the Channel, secretly, continuously, and without a single ship. The first prototypes are tested in secret on the Isle of Wight. The hoses twist and buckle under pressure. One explodes spectacularly, showering the engineers in oil. The pressurized line hisses like a wounded serpent before collapsing entirely. The skeptics smirk. "Told you," they say. Madness. But Hartley refuses to quit. With the help of the British petroleum engineers and the American Navy's logistic planners, they redesign the cable. Stronger, longer, smoother inside. By May 1944, the docks at Southampton and Dungeness are filled with coiled black steel snakes the width of a man's torso. The engineers have another name for them now: conundrums. Enormous floating spools that will unwind the pipeline across the Channel. Still, few believe it will work. The Channel is treacherous, the tides unpredictable, and German patrol boats prowl the waters. But the order has been given. D-Day is coming, and the fuel must follow. As the sun sets over the Channel, Hartley lights a cigarette, watching the water turn from grey to black. "They'll call us fools," he says quietly, "until the day a tank rolls into Paris on fuel we sent through the sea." He flicks the match away, and somewhere in the darkness, a ship's horn echoes. June 12th, 1944. 6 days after D-Day. The beaches of Normandy burn under a haze of cordite and diesel. Allied troops push inland, hungry for momentum. Sherman tanks rumble along the hedgerows, half-tracks grind through mud, and columns of trucks wait at depots for one thing: fuel. But the storm that hit the Channel days earlier has wrecked supply ships and destroyed temporary fuel lines. The vast invasion force teeters on the edge of paralysis. Without gasoline, the mighty Allied machine could stall within weeks. That's when Operation Pluto finally moves from blueprint to battlefield. At dawn, a fleet of small vessels gathers off Sandown Pier on the Isle of Wight. Each ship tows something enormous, a floating steel reel the size of a house, turning slowly on its axis. The men call them conundrums, giant bobbins packed with coiled pipeline. They creak and groan like monsters in the morning mist. Commander Bailey stands on deck, shouting over the wind. "Start the feed!" Engines roar. The pipeline unspools into the sea, vanishing beneath the grey waves. The cable hums with tension as miles of it sink toward the seabed, guided by divers and tugboats. It's a gamble that no one can predict, whether it will hold, whether it will survive the pressure, or whether it will burst halfway across. Inside the control hut on shore, Technicians watch the pressure gauges flicker. The first drop of aviation fuel surges into the line, 1,000 gallons per hour. The room falls silent. Then slowly, the needle steadies. The system holds. Bailey exhales. "By God," he whispers. "It's working." The operation's first pipeline stretches from the Isle of Wight to Cherbourg, over 70 miles under the sea. Every few minutes, an officer jots readings into a notebook. Temperature, pressure, flow rate. Each number marks another victory against physics. A few weeks later, the engineers push further. They extend the network to Boulogne, then to Calais, threading new lines along the seabed using improved Hayes and Hemel designs. Some with lead cores, others made entirely of steel. Every mile laid is a miracle. German reconnaissance planes buzz overhead, but never suspect the black cords snaking silently beneath them. In the weeks that follow, Pluto begins to pump 1 million gallons of fuel a day, enough to power the Allied advance through France. Still, the men on the docks remain cautious. One rupture could spill thousands of gallons into the channel and expose the secret. So they work in darkness, testing and patching by hand, their oil-stained faces lit only by the glow of pressure lamps. Among them is Chief Petty Officer Jack Dunn, an Irish welder. One night, a pipe section bursts under high pressure, spraying fuel across the deck. Dunn dives for the shut-off valve, slamming it closed as flames lick the air. When it's over, he laughs through the smoke. "Well, lads, at least we know it flows." The next morning, the system hums again. By late July, fuel flows from the southern coast of England straight into France. Invisible, unstoppable, and utterly vital. The dream that once drew laughter has become a lifeline. But as the Allied armies break out of Normandy and surge toward Paris, the engineers face one more impossible challenge: extending the pipeline across hundreds of miles of liberated Europe, through mud, rubble, and enemy fire. And once again, they'll have to do it faster than anyone thinks humanly possible. August 1944, northern France. The once broken roads of Normandy now thunder with Allied armour. The breakout from the beachheads has begun. Patton's Third Army races eastward, devouring fuel faster than ships can bring it across the channel. Every jeep, every Sherman, every bomber needs the same lifeblood: petrol. And Operation Pluto is the only thing keeping the arteries open. At a small field depot near Cherbourg, a US Army engineer named Lieutenant Frank Collins wipes sweat from his neck as he watches the pressure gauge climb. Behind him, endless convoys wait, the smell of exhaust heavy in the air. "Pressure steady?" his sergeant asks. Collins nods. "Steady enough to take us all the way to Paris." The numbers tell a story no one will ever see. Over 175 miles of pipe stretched across the channel, snaking through seabeds, buried under beaches, and hidden beneath farmland. The fuel flows day and night, unseen, unheard, unstoppable. The system is a masterpiece of improvisation. In some sections, pipelines are laid along riverbanks. In others, they pass through bombed villages, disguised under broken stone. Each connection is welded by men who know that one leak, one spark, could destroy everything. To maintain secrecy, even Allied soldiers guarding the installations are told it's just another communications cable. Few realise they're standing atop the most important supply line in Europe. By September, the results are undeniable. The Allied advance accelerates. Columns of Shermans roll east under skies thick with aircraft. Each tank burns through a gallon every 2 miles, but the flow never stops. From English ports at Dungeness and Southampton to pumping stations in France, the underground veins of Pluto deliver up to 1.6 million gallons of fuel per day, enough to feed 2 full armies. The engineers joke that the war itself now runs on a hose. Still, the work is brutal. The channel storms tear at exposed lines. German mines threaten coastal sections. One night, near Calais, saboteurs detonate charges that rupture a segment of pipe, sending a geyser of fuel shooting 50 feet into the air. Within hours, teams of divers descend to patch it, blind, half frozen, fighting the current. They surface coughing, soaked in oil, but smiling. "We'll have it running by morning," one of them says. And they do. By November 1944, Allied fuel reserves in Europe are higher than ever before. Eisenhower's staff begins referring to Pluto as the secret weapon of logistics. The frontline soldiers never see it, but they feel its effect. Trucks that never stop, planes that never wait, tanks that never sit idle. The system expands with each victory. As the Allies push across Belgium and into Germany, portable pipelines follow the front lines. Engineers weld, unspool, and bury new lengths every night. When the war finally ends in May 1945, Operation Pluto has delivered over 172 million gallons of fuel, enough to drive the Allied war machine from Normandy to the heart of the Reich. The project remains shrouded in secrecy for decades. No medals, no headlines, no parades. Just a handful of engineers, sailors, and welders who once believed in an impossible idea and made it real. Years later, as decommissioned sections of pipe are hauled from the seabed and sold for scrap, one of the surviving engineers, Arthur Hartley, stands on the beach at Dungeness and smiles. "They said it couldn't be done," he tells a reporter, watching the tide roll over the sand. But it did. It ran beneath the sea and carried victory on its back. The waves crash against the shore, and for a moment you can almost hear the hum of fuel rushing through the veins of history, the quiet heartbeat of an army that conquered Europe, not just with courage, but with engineering.